Good day. Welcome to another episode of the Contractors Innovation Podcast. Please smash the like button and press subscribe. We're going to do this weekly. We've got some interesting people. Today, my co-host is Matthew Janes, famous engineer with Isherwood Associates and an inventor himself, actually. We'll mostly be talking about my patents. And today we're doing part 3 of FH2O Lock with William Chen. And William Chen, I thought Matthew would be a good guest because he's expert at what we would call the third layer, which is the finish wall. So with the finish wall, William, can you give us a bit of your background for the benefit of Matt?
So I started out with I'm actually an accountant by trade, and then I started out doing construction concrete work, basically I started out doing flat work, and then I got into excavation, digging hydro trenches for all these new houses that were going up, and then I graduated from that into back in the Ray days when he was building all the low-income housing. I got into that, started building all these low-income housing, and then graduated from that to small plazas. And then in the end, I was doing custom hockey rinks for the cities, and also Walmart's, building boxes, all the big strip malls. And then I did a lot of churches, a lot of water treatment plants. And now I'm helping a little bit with this new SMRX nuclear reactor.
Or is that up in Bruce Peninsula, or is that down in
Darlington, the one in Darlington?
Yeah. And so what are you doing there?
Just helping with the utility scope. So some of the water treatment, wastewater treatment, water testing, stuff like that. So the main water mains and utilities coming into the sites.
Yeah, we looked at a bunch of stuff there too. Yep. And we are ongoing, with a lot of decommissioning work and lots of different stuff going on there. And then they're doing a big expansion as well. They got a big waterfront piece going in there.
Oh yeah.
New intake. Big intake.
Yeah, that's the new reactors, right? So
yeah. Well, I believe so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So
William,
So
tell us a little bit about Torrent and some of your experiences in the finished wall market, because you were doing a lot of that.
Yeah, so I did when I was with the Shotcrete. We started the HCM Shotcrete basically in quite a few years ago. We brought structural shotcrete to Ontario from British Columbia, basically, Martin and I. And then Torrent Shotcrete realized that, the Toronto market's much larger than Vancouver, so they rushed to come to Toronto without doing any research, and then ruined the shotcrete market in Toronto. They didn't realize it was unionized, and they came in with non-unionized labor and tried to bring the non-unionized pricing into the Toronto market, which basically ruined the shotcrete market. So then, I guess, Torrent basically owned the shotcrete market in Toronto with their low pricing, and that kind of upset their apple cart because the BC partners couldn't afford to keep financing it. So then they brought in a financier, I guess, from British Columbia, or somebody. But then Ross didn't like that. So Ross split off with these 5 other big concrete formwork guys and started up a competing shotcrete company, and basically knifed Torrent in the back. So Torrent called me up to help revitalize it. And then at that time when I was working with Torrent, we started with one of the crosslink stations doing a 900 thick shotcrete wall. We ended up finishing up with 7 of them. So, shotcrete finish walls. And then we did a lot of infilling, and we did the fish mounts in some of the stations, which was
Yep.
overhead walls and overhead finish coating with the shotcrete. And then after that, everybody's waiting for this Ontario line to start up, because I think there's 4 or 5 stations that will be all shotcrete. So that's my background in shotcrete, and then I did about a stint at the Goderich salt mine. We did a bunch of repairs on their towers and stuff like that with the shotcrete.
Oh yeah.
And then I was up in Ottawa. I did 5 buildings in Ottawa for EBC and Synergy. So structural shotcrete. So
And that was what, 8-10 inch thick walls with double layer of steel.
yeah, 10 like 8 to 12-inch walls with sometimes 1 layer of steel, sometimes 2, depending.
But that's tricky. You need welded wire mesh and everything to get the shotcrete to stand up and not slough on you, and then you're screeding it as well, aren't you?
Yeah, but like on the thick 12-inch wall, if you have 2 layers of 15, it'll stand up on its own. You don't need any wire mesh in front of it. The shotcrete will stand up on its own.
And would you just hand trowel it, or did you use screed set up and stuff like that?
So it was hand trowel, but we would screed it first. So
Yeah.
we install guide wires in front of the rebar, 2 inch, inch and a half in front of the rebar, shoot it in place, and then we just cut it back to the guide wires. And then as the guys are finishing, they just cut the guide wires out.
Yeah, I did some of the earlier work like that in Vancouver with the Matcon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I didn't manage it nearly as well as you did.
Yeah, it's a bit of a headache, especially you're dealing with concrete, right? So you never know what you're gonna get, right? Like some days it finishes in 6 hours, some days it finishes in 14, 20 hours, right? So
Yeah.
Is that because the mix design, it varies by supplier, or you change your supplier a lot? Like the slump is hard to control. Now we got this Chem Concrete. We want to mix in that discussion relative to, you might want to mention the salt mine. You're aware of what's going on there. I've got an engineer there interested in trying, and because you were in there before, we hope to use this. This is a game-changing world patent that some Iranians have. The beauty of it, Matt, is it actually reduces the cement and uses nanotechnology with 5 things as a world patent. Pretty smart guys. And
Good.
They're doing quite well with it. They bring it as a yogurt. The guy who handles Canada's Boris, we've met him, and so they're keen to give us exclusive in Goderich anyway, William. And I asked that from Jim. Jim's in a better mood these days. Although, they're pretty slow in terms of selling anything, which I think you and I predicted. I had said when I was involved, I would have had it going already, but it's hard for a guy in Sudbury to have the Toronto market figured out.
Yeah, it is. It's a long way. Different people,
So it actually is cost effective, Matt. If you look at the cost of the cement it saves, this product will actually equate to the same cost, let's say. And I think shotcrete is, correct me if I'm wrong, William, but it's a $200 mix at the best of times.
Yeah,
so
it's $250 minimum, right? So for shotcrete nowadays.
William was part of the testing. We went to Davrock. It was a pretty good guy, Sal Fasulo. You know Sal, Matthew? Anyway, he's the MTO referee, and which is sort of somebody that the MTO can, reverts to whenever there's a question of test results. And so a pretty significant guy. And, MTO also has I think they've gone flat spec on most of their bridges with MST rebar. Now, I hear different complaints about MST rebar. Jim seems to be down on them a bit. I don't know why. I think Bornea's
MST rebar, you mean the fiberglass, right?
Yeah, the glass rebar.
Yep.
And so I introduced Jim to David Lawn of Meta Engineers in Windsor. Have you ever talked or worked with him, Matt? Anyway, he's quite a good source, and he has basaltic products. And he's got a U.S. partner. Jim had a very good discussion with him, I think, last night, and thanked me, or the night before, and thanked me for the introduction. And that was the one, remember, Matt, we were going to use 5mm, or we are going to use 5mm rope, and you modeled it in Plaxis for the 75-year requirement to try and get the culverts at the 407.
Yep. Yeah, the culvert was an interesting application.
Yeah, the nice thing about basaltic is it's epoxied fibers. Everything's made out of fibers. So Jim's of the opinion that we should use bar now. What do you think about if we were to take an FH2O Lock job with Chem Concrete flat spec, 2 5-inch layers with feather edges? Do you think that we could get that garage to last 100 years if we put in salt-resistant rebar with the Chem Concrete hybrid, which is
I am not an expert on that, but I mean that's why the MTOs or every DOT is moving to glass reinforcing.
Yeah, they say it's actually not more expensive. It's probably even less money to get the market share. He's doing $400 million a year, man, out of an old automotive plant in Scarborough. And so the thing with, you have to hot bend it, can't cold bend it. So some rebar guys will be hard to switch, but the MTO has gone to it, and that's how they're doing their bridges. So it should be an easy sell if they hadn't jerked Sal around. Like what they did to Sal was we did 2 rounds of testing, and then they basically, Sam was impatient. It wasn't quite ready. He had brought one of the hybrids on the plane, and we were testing. Remember, William? And
Yeah.
And then, but I said to those guys, I said, well, we've got to pay Sal because he's the MTO referee. We were trying to get CCIL CSA, which is not the same as C494 relative to what MTO wants. And I think that'll still happen as I get room and deal with Keller. There's more what we hope to do, but Jim's agreed that we can take mining on after the salt mine in Canada. So the idea would be to help Keller. Keller told me that they were targeting mining as a company. They got 45 US offices and 5 Canadian offices. And it makes sense that we could, if we're exclusive for Chem Concrete in mining, then that makes Keller exclusive, right? So that's the commercial play that I hope to be able to execute actually in the coming weeks. The engineer was quite impressed with the test results and the idea of in a salt mine, what better place to get a testimonial than in a salt mine where the concrete will have probably basaltic. Would you think, William, have you ever used basaltic?
No, I've never used basaltic fibers before.
And what's the difference? Why is basaltic different than a conventional or, there's many kinds of fiberglass?
Well, I think the fiberglass might be less money, but it's hard to get fiberglass fibers, right? You're either going to get bars or you're not, but the basaltic products, what they do when they make a bar is they epoxy the fibers together. And I think they're able to bring this in from Turkey. It's a high quality basaltic source. And the end result is the kind of things that you got out of the 5mm rope, Matt. When you looked at the engineering properties of the rope, we can get those bars in the salt mine. But in the salt mine, I think William, all we'll use is the short fibers.
Yeah.
And mix it with the Chem Concrete. We're probably going to have to prep it in a Chem Concrete, like a Chem grout plant. You know how we do anchors, Matt? So we would do a similar, that equipment's readily available with Killer. And we would do a similar process where the yogurt, which is, it comes as pretty well literally a white liquid. It's a white liquid admixture. And so you got to buy totes and containers and all this stuff. But for the most part, I asked for 5-gallon pails. And then you would put in, I think it's 3% by weight of cement. And you're going to get a reduction in cement. Like, it's an amazing technology what these guys have. They've got $1 billion play with this Chem Concrete, and they're being very careful about
So
it.
if we had yogurt, could we mix it into, say, like
The gun?
no, like say we wanted to mix it into a 5-gallon bucket of hydraulic cement and
Well,
do a patch with it, would that work?
when you say patch, you mean you think that I think anything would work that's cementitious and has you put a percentage of cement. 2% is considered a low dose, 3% is considered a maximizing dose. They don't recommend, let's say, more than that. So if you're thinking of what are you thinking? Dry patching the shotcrete repair?
Yeah, like say you have a manhole with a storm pipe in it, right?
Oh yeah, that would be a good application where you get all kinds of you get all kinds of cracks without it, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So I think it's endless usage, and all we need to do is get a price and use our contacts with him. Like with CH Shotcrete, Keller's quite interested in what we're talking about, and Jim has given us exclusive in the mine, so that's more or less I've asked for it, and he's thinking about it. But he's going to give us exclusive in the salt mine, and I think the salt mine is a great place to test. Chem Concrete has a lot of testimonials on their massive marketing campaign around the world. They've got, I think, what are they, in a dozen countries now? So they actually, Boris is mixing the 5 hybrid in his precast plant in Sudbury. So it's a good local source. They haven't put anything on it that leads me to believe I have a shelf life. So with the yogurt, it seems to me you got shelf life. If we can get 5-gallon pails, then you would put that measured amount, it would probably be literally a cup, to seal off a manhole. Do you have a job now that has manholes, by the way?
Yeah, I've got a job now that I'm working with them, so I'm just wondering if it could be utilized there.
Yeah, well, we have to get 5-gallon pails, and I think that's the best. Like a tote is too much product. If if you're doing a big ready mix pour, let's say 1,000 meters of concrete, then you could buy totes, right, in a container, and the shipping is better. But everywhere you see their marketing, it's basically pails. But Jim admits that they're looking at really, they're just starting now after all that time, right? And me getting those guys not liking the fact that I wanted the testing cycles done. The testing is done all over the world now. So it's really is something to kind of watch, like you're doing, William, in the sense that it's inevitable that this thing's a game-changing, salt-resistant mix. It's all about the permeability, Matt. So it lowers the permeability by, I don't know, do you know offhand, William? It's basically, well, it beads water. I sent you that sample.
Sorry, just a heads up. The Zoom call will end in less than a minute.
Okay.
So
well, that was pretty good. That was pretty good for part 3.
Baby, I need to know.